Welcome to Divorced Dads of America, The Rebuild. I'm your host, Anthony Thompson, founder. And today we're going to get into it. We're going to dig into some great stuff. This is a different one. This is a podcast that we've never had before yet. Before we get into it, I want you to know it's one of those laundry days. And if you got kids, you understand what that's like. I have this thing in my head where my children are smaller, one of them, and well, they're all kids. I have this idea when I'm doing laundry sometimes for them that they look at clothes and they're dirty. And I don't even know. I think it's more or less they just want to not put their clothes away and they just want to put them in the washing machine. So that's what's happening currently in this current situation. Before we get into today, very, very, very excited for this conversation. It's going to be a good one. So this episode's different. It's not an interview. It's not advice. It's not therapy. What you're about to hear is a live coaching conversation with a man in our community, in our school group, who's in one of the hardest seasons of his life, probably a lot of stuff that you're going through. He recently lost his job. Cash is burning quickly. Marriage is now over. Pressure is real. And I'm sharing this not to put him on display, but to show what leadership structure and coaching can look like, especially when you're under stress. And it's not judgment. But what you're going to probably see and hear is this law of atrophy in real time. So today is about stabilizing the inner man so the outer life can be rebuilt. So if you're listening and you feel behind or you're panicked or you're ashamed, stick with us. This is a big one for you. This one is for you. And before we start, I want to set the container clearly for this conversation. It's a coaching conversation. It's focused on responsibility, clarity, and the next right action. So we're not here to vent endlessly. We're not here to rescue. We're here to lead. And Pete's joining us today, and there's some big questions I'm going to have. We're going to jump in and around a few things, but the most important one that I want for him to share and have this space, real space that real dads are listening to, are some of these pressures. And the one that comes to mind the most, and the first is, Pete, for you, what feels like the heaviest pressure right now?
Right now, it's definitely the financial pressure. Like I've got a fear of what if, I've turned in applications. I'm not used to not being employed. I've worked since I was 15, 16. And, I keep coming up the nose or I keep, and the bills keep coming, right? So the financial stress is just, it feels like a mountain on my chest right now. And, something I just, as I was thinking about that, to point out to some other guys is, as I've gone through this season, and yes, it has been the hardest season of my life, it wasn't always the financial stuff, right? So sometimes it's kids, like we talked last night on the phone call. Sometimes it's that walking into an empty house and the silence, right? Hearing the chaos and the pitter patter of 4 kids and then coming home to crickets. You got to be ready for it. And I wasn't, it's those non-negotiables and things like that. But right now it's definitely the finances, right? And it feels like a, impending doom. So what do you do as a dad, right? You do whatever you have to. So I donate plasma. I go do DoorDash. I do whatever I have to do, selling stuff as I move to a new place here. And whatever I have to do to keep my kids, happy, fed, all that stuff. So, but finances are
Totally.
big weight. Yeah.
Totally. So let me ask you this, Pete. What story is your mind repeating when you wake up?
You can't fail. Like you can't actually hit bottom on this one, right? There's, how do I say that? I've hit bottoms in, rock bottom, whatever you want to call it, in other areas. Like when whether it's the loneliness, right? That's a rock bottom. I feel like you can hit and you kind of have to. This one, you don't want to go, I don't want the bottom of the plane to touch the ground because if it does, I don't want to know what's going to happen if I can't pay my bills or something happens. And it's just, that's a mess. And that one's not emotional. That one's hopefully preventable. Right. So, I'm trying just as hard as I can to get something on the books, get some income, boy, how stuff has changed. I went from making great money, living in big houses to, donate plasma. But it is what it is. And I know it's a season. I know it'll come back. I know that now. It's sometimes hard to realize that in the midst of it and in the quiet of the night. But man, I've turned to prayer and I've turned to God again, and I that is the number one thing that gets me through it, whether it's finances or whatever. But the financial thing, like I told you yesterday, I got on my knees in my living room here and started praying. I mean, just like, and I started bawling.
Yeah.
And I said, "Bring me a blessing." 20 minutes later, the phone rings. It's you. 45 minutes later, the phone rings. I've got my first in-person interview with a company tomorrow. So it's like, he's listening. So my job.
Well, dude, thanks for sharing that, dude, because this is a real time, moment here. And when you're in the real time moment and you're hearing these words of failure and you've tasted it, and we mentioned this briefly just about you've tasted what, success can look like for yourself. And so, a lot of guys, they may have not tasted that and they're still hoping for that. The difference is you've had that feeling, you've had those moments, you've been up the mountain, and now you're down here, at a later stage in life, never imagining that you would be with children, with responsibilities as a dad, as those things. And so I just want, other dads to know that, this isn't something that's a one-off for some dads, and others that these pains are real and they feel it. So what would be for you, like you mentioned failure, what are you most afraid happens next?
The thing that haunts me is like when I wake up in the middle of the night and I gasp or I feel that wave of anxiety is homeless. Like a word I never even, and maybe that's dramatic. I don't intend that to be dramatic, but that is like a fear of like, hey, if I can't pay my rent, if I do this or whatever, if money literally runs out, what happens, right? Like, I'm 42 years old. I live, 3 states away from my folks. Are like, what am I going to do? Like, so that's that fear way off in the distance. It's like, if I don't do something, that is the rock bottom I just referenced. Like, so do I think that's going to happen? No.
Have you ever had that feeling before?
No. In fact, I almost arrogantly in the past, I can say that about myself. Like I worked so hard for so long to avoid that and build a life that was the opposite of that. Right. So the last 2 years have been financially challenging, emotionally challenging. The money's gone. Whatever it is, I'm not a victim by any means, and my problems are not unique. But it's like the fear is what if I don't land something in the next couple of weeks, right? Like I'm not sitting on a bunch of money anymore. I moved to the Midwest a couple of years ago with $500,000 in the bank, and now there's $4,000. So. Right. So,
totally.
Well,
look, I want to jump in. Yeah. I want to jump in here, Pete, for a little bit of a dance around this topic, because, these things do happen, methodically in their own way. So there's a law here, and it starts like this. When a man doesn't get better, he gets worse. We talked a little bit about buttons on elevators and what they do. And it's not because he's weak, but because systems decay under stress. And so the question isn't why is this happening? The question is what has atrophied since life got hard? And if I had to throw that back to you, first question I would be curious with Pete for where your current circumstance is what habits slip first?
So you say atrophy, and I used to talk to my guys when I ran some companies and stores, and I used to say there's the theory of entropy, okay, which states that all things left unattended to will eventually fall to chaos, right? So you don't mow your lawn, you have a job.
Yes.
You don't work out, you're 500 pounds. You don't go to work, you don't have money, right? Whatever. Okay, so same type of deal, just other side of the spectrum, right? So for years and years and years, I was good at what I did, okay, but I let myself get really unhealthy. So when I was 37, I said, I can't mess around anymore. I need to put these non-negotiables in place. I was 575 pounds. I lost 330 pounds in a year. And I was like rock solid on this discipline. You know, I'd get up in the morning early, I'd work out, I'd eat, I'd meditate, I'd pray. I mean, I had these things dialed in, and the results were there, right? I was making great money. I was successful. I felt confident. It was all good. And when the divorce began, okay, the beginning of that, I was almost even more rigid in those things. Worked out harder. You know, I'm going to show her or whatever. You know, I'm going to be this light for my kids. This example. I'm going to show up at their high school graduation someday and look like a stud, and I'm going to be rich and okay, whatever. Well, it didn't happen that way. And gradually, I stopped praying. I stopped working out. I stopped eating right. I started drinking more. I got into dating sites, right? Like, so I went the other way because I let it chew me up. And it was those quiet nights, even when it wasn't money for a long time, right? During the separation, things like that, money wasn't the issue. It was a problem, but it wasn't my worry like it is now. And, you know, the first thing is I let go of God and I stopped praying as much as I should. I used him like a butler, right? I'd ring the bell and I'd say, "Hey, I'm having a panic attack. I'm scared," and he comes, right? Like my dad always says, if you feel far from God, guess who moved? Well, it's always you. And I just those things were waterfall. They were just a cascade one into another. And I hate admitting that out loud. And just in the last month, I've started going back to the gym. I pick up the Bible every day when I wake up. I pray with my kids every night at dinner when they're here. And those things matter. Like I was trying to explain to my kid, my oldest, he's 12. He said, it was a great question. He said, how do those things matter for what you're trying to do? Like he goes, how does working out make you? And I said, whoa, I was like, that's good. I said, working out doesn't make you successful, right? It doesn't. Like you can't draw a straight line there. Reading the Bible doesn't make you successful, or, you know what I mean? And that's a great question from my kid.
Yeah.
I said, when you do those things, and I said, you're disciplined, okay, and you're consistent, and you put God first, and you take care of your body, okay, and God tells us to take care of our body, and you eat right, you do all these things. I said, okay, the results every single time will be there. And I said, nobody can draw a straight line. You can't say, hey, I worked out, I prayed, 7 days out of 7 days this week. There's no guarantee that it's going to be better. I said, but every single time in my life that I've done that, I said, the results are there, right? And I'm telling my kid this as I'm like, I should take my own advice and get back to that. So the things that always fall first for me, when it gets heavy or I get alone and I've got a bad case of ostrich syndrome, like I told you, I'll stick my head in the sand and go, oh God, I'm alone. I'm going to dunk my head under and not answer a phone call or whatever it is. And that's when I stopped doing those non-negotiables. Now, when I get those things done, the endorphins flow. You got the Holy Spirit in you. There's a different way. We all know when you meet a certain guy like you, okay, and I mean this. I'm not stroking it. Like when I meet you, you have a thing about you, and it's the Holy Spirit. Like there's something in you that's in your eyes and the way you talk, and it's awesome, right? Like something I aspire to, right? But when I do those things every day, day in and day out, I'm a different guy, right? I'm a different dad. I'm a different everything. I'm more patient. I'm more kind. I'm more loving. I'm more confident in how I talk to employers or whatever it is, right? It all matters. So, but those are the things I let go of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're real, Pete. And what I notice here in these types of conversations is that you have when you look back, and someone might say it's a failure or it's a loss, and there's two ways to look at it. It's either yes, like that crushed me, or you got your pen and notebook out saying, hey, I notice a lot of things that are going on here that work really well when I do this.
Yep.
And it also creates the man in me that I want to become. And so when I hear you talk back and reflect on those things, I hear you saying, cool, I actually have a pretty solid blueprint of the internal man that you need to be so that then comes out on the exterior. So when you hear me reflect that back to you, what do you hear?
Get up and do it. Right. I mean, that's what I like.
Okay.
I know what I need to do. Right. I can't, there's certain things I always
And
feel like
what's stopping that, Pete? What's stopping that?
fear, the quiet time, just sometimes like I told you yesterday, I've had to catch myself. Like sometimes I'll pull up, I'll be running an errand or do this, and I'll park like in front of a convenience store. I'm gonna go in and grab a Gatorade before I go to the gym or whatever it is, right? And I'll sit there, and for whatever reason, I'll just I'll stare or I'll doom scroll or and I feel like these voids, like these things, just suck you in. All of a sudden, the anxiety starts, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? It's those things like just you have to be. I have to be proactive. I have to do those non-negotiables every day. If I don't do those things, um, I'm way messier and it's way worse. And it's way, that's when the enemy creeps in and there's anxiety and fear and all that stuff. If I don't do those things, and when I felt my best, 5-7 years ago, when I was getting up and I had this routine,
Yeah.
I'd get up at 4:30, I'd read the Bible, I'd do push-ups and sit-ups and go to the gym and meditate and sauna, like all that stuff, because I was protecting my heart, my mind, and my soul, right? And
Mm.
I let that wall down many times during the last couple of years of the divorce, right? And a lot of it was just a pity party. A lot of it was, and that's the real answer. A lot of it was just, woe is me. I got a
Yeah.
bum deal. I got this and that. And it's like, and then all of a sudden you just spiral and you sit there in the quiet of this foreign house and you just sit there and go, ugh, right? Like, and if you're not careful, like if you're not proactive, if you're not on guard, if you're not guarding your heart and your guard, like it just eats you alive. Like it just, so, and it did for a while. There's seasons in the last couple of years where I know it, I just let it consume me. And it was just, for no good reason other than I was weak and I chose to be weak, had I leaned into God and had I done those non-negotiables, I probably would be, in a different spot. And that's, but it's, one day or day one, right? So it's always a new day to start. And,
Yeah.
I pick it up, like a month ago when I started talking
It's
to you.
it's good. It's good, Pete. What I want to let's track this trail here a little bit. And as you know, and you've been through, a lot of the stuff that we've gone through in our group. There's something we use, the FAST system, which starts with focus and starts with faith. And I want to just drop a couple questions, sort of in this, area, so you can kind of like, start to get some of the stuff out of your head again, out into the open, and that's a place where we can attack it. And so that's one of the powerful things about, coaching and questions and reflection is getting it actually out of your head onto a space and place where you could say, cool, there it is. Now we know what to do next. So I guess in this area of focus, if we're looking at this for your week, what would you say are three things that you can control this week?
Staying in the Word, exerting physical energy, so going to the gym, lifting weights, cardio, whatever it is, and staying on top of the job hunt. Those are the things I have to right now, right? So faith first, physical second, and
Yep.
like you said, it's a different person, a different process. Like when you go throw some weight around and then you go, talk to somebody or have an interview, it's different than if you hadn't. You don't feel
Yeah.
lazy, you feel on fire, right? So those are the three things that are top of my list right now.
Yeah, that's good, dude. Because then on the other side of it, what are some things that you found maybe in this last week or couple weeks that you're obsessing over that actually produce zero return?
Running out of money. Um,
Say that again. Say that again.
Running out of money. You know, that is
Running out of
constantly.
money. Okay. Yep. Okay. Obsessing over money.
And
Yep.
in all reality, I can't change that right now, right? I mean, until I have a job and all that stuff, I can't change that right now. I worry about it, so I've tried to give that over to God a couple times, and it's one of those where I feel like it keeps landing back in my lap,
Yeah.
but probably because it
I,
has a lot of weight.
I
So,
had this thought for you. I had this thought for you, Pete, this morning, and I know a lot of guys will probably hear this, and it's a shift in just thinking, and it kind of alludes to a little bit what you said before, and I'm just curious how this lands for you. One of the things that I do say sometimes with guys is that, the scripture says that out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks. And so what you're saying is, it's coming on this internal loop and dialogue. And I liken it to a tube of toothpaste. And what I notice when I grab my toothpaste to go brush my teeth and I take the top off and I squeeze it, toothpaste comes out. Thankfully, it's not, it's not orange juice. It's not, pudding, it's toothpaste. And one of the reasons why I was thinking this in your regard is also in preparing. So a lot of guys are like, I need money and I need this and I need these things. And they really, really look so much more on the exterior. And I'm going to come back to the point. So you listening, hold on to your seats here. All right. And I'll say it like this. I went to a restaurant this last week and it was a new restaurant and there was one server working the entire restaurant and we sat in with a table of 6 and I could tell that it was new and I could tell that they were flustered and I could sense all of those things. I've been to plenty of restaurants. We sit down and we're getting our order, fixed up or whatever, and we're just kind of waiting and we're being patient and we're just hanging out and it's all good. Like we're giving a lot of grace. Well, the server comes over and she was so kind and she was so thoughtful and she was so generous and she was helping with my children and she was helping them fix chopsticks and just all these little things. And as she went, took our order and went away again, we just all looked at the table and we said, you know what? Like as tough as those things were, we felt this care and this, you know, kindness from this woman who is serving us. And I say that to say that when you are in a position that you're in and you're looking at all of these job opportunities and you're looking at all the guys that you're up against, you got to remember that all of them are going through crap too. And you got to remember that all the current employees are going through crap too. And so when your internals, and in Galatians 5 talks about the fruits of the Spirit, when the fruits of the Spirit are alive and active and overflowing in your life, you will walk into places with a presence that will be able to get people's attention. And if I was going to flip that your way, Pete, and in your journey right now, in what you're doing and how you're talking with people and those kinds of things, what would you want those internals to be for you?
you mean what would I change my internal monologue to be, or what would I rather have it be, or say
What
the
would you
question?
want them to feel from you?
Oh,
What
gotcha.
would you want them to feel from you?
Something's different about that guy. He's whole. He's not holy, but he's whole, right? There's a thing, and that's kind of what I was trying to say about you. There's a and other guys I've met, right, where I shake their hand, I talk to them, I go, that dude's at peace, right, or that guy's whole, or he's on fire for God, even though he never said a word about God. Like something I've been talking to my kids about, is putting God first in everything we do, right? Like stopping to pray, prayers in the morning, prayers at night, like I have desired that for a long time, and I feel like I know how to get it and do it, but I don't do it. Meaning, live my life every day, every moment, like for God. It just like I see it, and then I don't make the decision that supports it, or I don't have the courage to say something, with God first, or I don't say, "Hey, man, can I pray for you?" Or like, share the gospel with a stranger, something like that. Like I just don't, I don't have God in every facet of my life, and I want to.
Yeah.
And I know it's not as hard as I make it in my head. I really do. Like it's,
Yeah.
you know, like I've met guys before, and that you walk away and you go, there's something really different about that guy. Like that guy was at peace. He's whole. You can tell the dude is on fire. And then all of a sudden you go, hey, what do you do? Like, what do you believe? And all of a sudden the guy goes, hey, I'm a Christian. I'm this, whatever. Like, I've met plenty of those guys, and I've always go, like that's been like that missing link in my, I can work hard, I can sell stuff, I can do all that, but it's like I've never had that, and I think that is like that key. I hate to use that for success, but I feel like that's a key thing of like the next chapter or the second half of my life. It's like I have to find a way that no matter what I do or where I end up, it is. I live and breathe for God, and I make decisions with God first, and with my kids, my finances, my ex-wife, my whatever it is. It has to come from, hey, God, is this going to honor you? Right? If it doesn't, I'm not going to do it, or I'm not, going to go another way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Pete. I always like this analogy with, there's a shopping center that I really like, and I haven't been there in a while, but there's one in Vegas, and it's right on the Strip, and it's called Crystals. And when you walk in it, it just smells like money, not, I mean, like literal money, but like, everything in there is high end.
Yeah.
There's beautiful trees in there. There's lighting. Every store is super high end. And I usually like to go, there's a Starbucks in there, and I'll grab a Starbucks and I'll just kind of walk around and do a lap. Cause I'm like, this feels incredible. And as I think about it and I look through it, and I'm like, well, let's look at this place. It's on the Strip. It's high level. We know what kind of clientele they want, which also means we know what they don't want. And this is real estate, and this is the game. And if I put this picture toward your mind, because what we know about this place, Crystals, is that they don't want a Walmart in there. Like, no offense to Walmart. I go to Walmart every week. They don't want Walmart. They want high-end, high-level types of stores in there, because they want a certain feel. And in your world, in your mind, Pete, if you were the owner of Crystals, the owner of your mind, and you had tenants for your mind, people, actions, thoughts in your mind that you knew would be in there, and they would be high-level tenants for you, what would those tenants look like and sound like for your mind?
It would be those the same characteristics I'm talking about. It'd be somebody that doesn't, doesn't make excuses, gets the job done, meaning they do the non-negotiables, they put God first, they make the right decisions, they lead with, passion, and they're driven, and not anxious, and not, like I've walked into other places too where you just feel like, oh, this doesn't feel good at all, right? Or it feels anxious, or it feels, dilapidated and all that stuff, which is sometimes how my brain feels, or my soul feels, right? And I'm not putting good tenants in my own brain sometimes. And what does that look like? What is a bad tenant in my brain? Well, I chose to, buy a six pack instead of go to the gym, or whatever it is, right? Like, but that stuff, every one of those decisions is that tenant in my brain that ends up being anxiety, or ends up being depressed, or ends up being, but when I go back to where I was most successful, and not financially, but when I was most, it's when I didn't miss a day, picking up the Bible, going to the gym, doing those things, right? And when I let go of those things, it's like all the meth head tenants come back in. So,
well, and think of it like this, right? So this Crystals Mall that I'm talking about, it only has those kind of tenants, which means that it usually only attracts those kinds of people into those places. Would you agree?
It's like show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right? So it's like, am I letting tenants into I am, as I say it out loud, I'm like, yes, I am, right? I'm, like I told you yesterday, whether it's, I had a season of dating sites and did, things that made me feel icky, and I drank too much. I'm not even a big drinker. It's like, but like things like that, every time there's a decision like that, I'm opening the door to a tenant that has bad credit, smokes in the back, whatever it is, and it makes the entire mall or the whole store my brain, my soul, it makes it darker, worse, right?
Yeah.
So I have to be.
What about what about tenants as thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, right? So like when I make those choices,
Okay.
I feel like that's making
Yeah.
it's like handing a key to those thoughts and going, hey, move on in, right? Like, and there's a clear crossroads. We all know it as men, right? Where you go, I should do this. When that alarm goes off, I need to get up.
Yeah.
I need to open my Bible. I need to start there, right? Sometimes we do, sometimes
Yeah.
we don't. But every time I don't do that, and I make the choice that's easy or it's comfortable in the moment, it always ends up being there's a bad tenant, and then that tenant all of a sudden turns into anxiety, fear, depression, because I wasn't on guard and I didn't vet those people as they applied to the mall, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love this analogy too. Imagine now, Pete, that you have secured high level talents, thoughts, people, places, and things in your mind. What type of jobs and people do you think you would attract?
I would attract, I think, guys or people that have been broken or have been kind of through some stuff, but you have to, you almost have to fall down. You have to go through these things for those things to really make sense. Like I would want to attract faithful, positive, industrious, patient, right? Like I guess as I say that, I know that those aren't all the fruits of the spirit, but that's what comes to mind is, and when I talk
Yeah.
about that guy that I want to be, right, it's the fruits of the spirit, right? It's like my own dad,
Yeah.
God bless me, he's 80, what is he, 83, 84? Anyway, he's got cancer and he's recovered alcoholic, and he, 40 some years ago, but that dude is like, he's my role model. Like he went through, DUIs and divorce and well, way before I was even born, but he is constantly pointing me to Christ. He's like an example of success. He puts his peace and his relationship with God, first. And it's like, you know what I mean? And I've had seasons where I do, but
Yeah.
then fall off. But he's been consistent, discipline, that stuff for ages, and that's what I aspire to. I want to be patient, loving, kind, generous, and that's the kind of people I want to attract. That's what I want in my life.
Awesome. Okay. I when I was walking down this road and thinking about that for you, Pete, I've been in that place and space as well, where I'm sending out a million resumes and I'm talking to a million people and I'm doing everything in rapid speed mode. And I kind of wanted to bring this up to you because if we were to take a step back, and similar to the story that I shared with this server that came to our table that had just a great spirit and a great attitude, it changed our attitude of the restaurant because we were no longer worried about impatience and whatever. If she would have came and brought us an attitude as well, I'd probably never go back to that restaurant again.
Yep.
But she brought kindness and care and just a gracious spirit to that moment. And I was like, wow, it changed. Now I'm thinking about you as and I bring that into my situation when I was doing all the applications. I was worried, I was fearful, I was concerned, I was trying to do as many steps as fast as possible to get in the door and land the money. If I took a step back and I said, okay, what was the space look like for me internally when I was sending out all those resumes and writing all those things and doing all those things? Was I in a space that was high level? Was I in a space that was capturing the right thoughts? Was I in a space that was, attracting those types of individuals because of my thoughts? No, I wasn't. If I'm honest, it was not. It was fear, worry, anxiety, failure, all of those things. And that's what I was pumping. That's what I was pushing out. And I wanted to put that your way, Pete, especially in the mix that you're in with the things that you're doing. And I would just, when I say that to you, what do you think you could do anything different as you begin to look at employment for yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of wild you say that. I've thought that, but never materialized it. I am like I think energy and all that stuff matters. And I've been, just like you said, I've been pumping out resumes, quantity, picking up the phone, but it's with an anxious heart. It's with the heart of fear. Um, and I truly believe, like, I think even if, it's just an email, my resume comes through an Indeed to a potential employer. I think it might come with anxiety attached to it or something like that, where they go, oh, like this guy's resume looks great, but there's something I'm not going to call him, right? Like for whatever reason, I'm not going to call this guy. I know that sounds like juju, but I think what you just said is very real. And I've tried to meter that the best I can and control my controllables and do the Bible in the gym. Okay. But it's still like, it's just been gnawing at me, this anxiousness and this fear. So, yeah, no, I know that's real, and I don't quite know how to overcome that and how to like truly get at peace. Like while I'm sitting here on a Monday morning or Tuesday morning, and going through all the
Yeah.
jobs, it's like how do I do that in a way that's where my heart's at ease, and I'm going, hey, I got total trust in God, and I'm going to find a job today and mean it, and not like not tell myself that, but then turn around and go, right, like. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. 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 Well, thank you for sharing that. There's a few scriptures that come to mind for me, and there were a few that came to mind for me in that season as well, as I was fumbling the ball nonstop, bro. I was doing the exact same thing, fumbling and fearful. And I need this. I got to grab this. I'm, holding on, clenching the fist tight. And I had to look through the scriptures to then remind myself, you know, does God love me? Yes, he does. Deuteronomy 8:18 says that he has given me the power to get wealth, that he would establish his covenant on the earth through me. Isaiah 26:3 says he will keep me in perfect peace because my mind is stayed on him because I trust in him. So when you hear these scriptures, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him, he'll direct your path. They're great words until you begin to unpack them. And I had to then unpack them and say, Lord, I believe that you're on my side. I believe that you have great plans for me, Jeremiah 29:11. I believe that your face shines upon me. If there are things in my life that I need to let go of, I need to let go of. And as you begin to cast your cares on him, it says he's faithful and just to forgive your sins and cleanse you from all unrighteousness. I thought about this morning as I was saying the Lord's Prayer, and I'm saying this as a daily prayer, and going through the list and saying, well, he wants us to move towards him, and he wants those things. Why? Because he wants our heart, and he wants our fruits of the Spirit for people to see them and feel them. And, as much as the juju side, there's that lane, the fact is that everything is energy, and our emotions are energy. And when you're living below happiness and joy and contentment, you're living in a negative space. But you also got to remember, Pete, that mostly everybody else is as well. So you have an opportunity to say, how can I be different as I'm finding revenue, as I'm creating a business, as I'm doing these things? Well, the way you find the difference is that you do the things that nobody else is doing, and you bring the energy that nobody else has. And so those gifts and those things and that stuff that God has for you, it's then saying, okay, like, what does this look like practically? And it is daunting until you begin to measure your mind and say those tenants are no longer allowed. Because if you look back, and this is something that I had to do, and those of you listening, I implore you to do this, because as kids we did it, and as adults we don't. And as kids, you'd play sports and you get a trophy and you put it on your little bookshelf, and there it is. And it's a reminder that was something that you had won. And as you get older, you don't get those, right? Maybe you buy yourself a car, or maybe you get yourself a watch, but the scripture says that for us to remember the great things the Lord did for us. In the Old Testament, the Israelites would set up an altar when the Lord did something for them so that they could remember God's greatness and his goodness in their life. And so a lot of clients, a lot of guys I work with, I remind them, because I had to remind myself all the times in the last 5 to 10 years. And those of you listening, I recommend you do this. Write down 5 to 10 items that God has come through for you on, and remind yourself of God's hand in this instead of reminding yourself of all the crap that has gone on. When I say that to you, Pete, what do you hear, brother?
I hear my mom saying, have an attitude of gratitude. She always used to say that, but don't focus on the negative, right? And I can honestly say I really don't. Like, I'm not a negative guy. It's just I'm pretty positive. I try to focus on the positive. It's that like quiet time. It's just like I feel like the devil's had my number for like he's always like, hey, it's right over here. Just go take a nap or go quit or go, it's or whatever it is, like something stupid. But yeah, man, I was welling up for a minute when you were talking about some of those Bible verses. Just like I've been overwhelmed sitting here in the season of divorce, and there's so many ripples of that. Like, I never thought divorce would be what it is. I thought the things that would suck, it would be the stuff that's bad. I didn't think would be bad, and the stuff that's good, I didn't think would be or isn't as painful. It's weird. It's nothing like what I thought it was, and how it delivers pain and how it wrecks your world. It's a different thing, but God has come through for me.
Yeah.
So many times, and I truly know he will. Like, I know I'll get through this one way or another, right? I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
And I know he'll never give up on me, right?
Yeah.
He spent 40 days in the desert and all this stuff, and like, so what? Maybe this is my 40 days, right? Maybe I thought, like, when I had all the health stuff, maybe I thought that was my 40 days. Maybe it wasn't. Like, or maybe that was just another thing. Like, but people have it way worse. I just had a buddy that had to get his legs amputated in his 30s, and now he died of cancer. Like, it's like he's got a wife and kids. It's like, that's worse than this divorce or trying to find a job, right? Like, I have to focus on what's good, and I have so much good. I really do. Like, I got 4 healthy kids, happy. I'm a great dad. If I died tomorrow, that's probably the thing I'd hang my hat on with confidence. But I need to remember that. Like, he'll pull me through it, and I just have to lean into him as hard as I possibly can. And I don't know how to say it. Like, make every decision with him at the forefront, right? Like, anytime I'm anxious, I need to stop and pray. Or anytime I'm, overwhelmed, stop, pray, right? Even if it's 10 seconds. If I don't, like, if I'm not constantly on offense, it's that, entropy again, right? It'll fall to chaos, right? If I just go, nah, I'm not going to read the Bible today. Nah, I'm not going to go work out today. I'll consume myself, and it's the, what is it? 1 Peter 5:8, prowls like a lion, ready to devour your soul, right? It's like, he's just pacing, right? He's always there. And it's always a suggestion, or it's just that little, God gives us these nudges. I tell him, like, go talk to that person, or do this, or help this person, or whatever it is, or raise your hand and speak, or whatever. He's the same way, the enemy, like, it's a drop, right? Like, you don't need to read the Bible today, right? You'll be fine. You read it yesterday. You read it last night, whatever it is, right? And when that happens, the anxiety and all that stuff just comes back in. It's like letting those tenants back in. And
Well, let's dance into the future here before we close. All right.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Pete, who are you becoming in this season?
a godly whole man. I want to be that guy where I'm confident in Christ and I'm confident in just every facet of my life, not because it's perfect and not because it's everything's good. That'll never happen. Okay. But I will become that godly man. And what that means to me is that I'm leading a legacy every day, right? That my kids are proud of, that someday when I'm gone,
That's great. We just lost Pete there. And there was a few other questions that I had for him, but I'm going to pause it there. And there was a couple things that I want to leave this for you guys. One is, look, there's a journey and there's a next step that he's taking, and he's doing those things in our school group. He's doing that things in our group with accountability. This is not just pain. It's walking through the pain. This isn't just a prayer and a hope. There's a strategy to it. And he was mentioning, there's some parts in there where, he talked about, having a system when anxiety, worry, fear comes in. And as you guys know, and those of you guys in the group, that everything has a system, and the prayer could be part of the system. The affirmations, the declarations, the identity of who you are is part of the system, because you have got to control the tenets in your mind and in your life, because it's going to control who you attract and who's around you and who you become. You cannot become something in that man while you hang around with people who are not like that. And the pain is the information. It's not the instruction. And so the pain is literally the doorway of where you're going next. So if you're listening to this and you feel the same panic, here's what you watch. Here's unpacking of what just happened. Panic is slowed down first. Chaos needs to be narrowed. Emotion needs to be contained, and action needs to be restored. And this is what coaching looks like for you. Most guys have never seen it. They don't experience it. They think it's a rah-rah game. It's a pat on the back, say, hey, let's get going. Pete is walking this through with accountability. There's things he's now going to be doing, whether it's in his resumes, whether it's internal structure, whether it's his habits that are all aligned into the place that he needs to go. And so Pete has things that he's now accountable to, and in our group he's accountable to do, not just to pray and to hope, but to restructure and reframe what's happening now in this season. What does peace look like? Because you can choose peace any time of the day. You can choose happiness any time of the day. You can do that because you control your thoughts. Nobody else does. When you give somebody else control over your thoughts, you've given them control over your life. When you give them control of how you feel, you've given them the control over your life. And you never give that away. Ever, ever, ever give that away. And so now you are the master of your ship. What you feel is up to you. What you become is up to you. And there's a gap between knowing what to do and doing it. How do we close that gap? You close the gap by first getting aware to it. Like Pete and I were talking, you got to get aware to the gap, man. And you got to get aware to the blind spots and things you're not doing, and realizing that those will not get you there. If you do not take the time to get better, you will get worse over time. Most of the dads that I talk to, the reason why they're in the state and the condition that they're in is because over time they've never focused on the right things to do in their life. They've lived by default, and default has gotten them distractions. Default has gotten them into a disarray, a destructive pattern in their lives. I'm talking design for your life. I'm talking about a real structure and a real hope in your life. And so I'm going to see if I can get Pete back in here and close this out. Okay. Let's see what we can do it.
sorry, I'm not sure what's going on, but
if we can get him back in, we can rock and roll with this. If not, let me tell you why this community matters. Okay. Community matters here because guys don't fall apart because they're weak. They fall apart because they isolate. And this conversation hits you. You want structure, you want accountability, you want leadership. First, check out our school community. That's number one. Number two is I want to recommend that if you're at this place and you're looking for one-on-one support, reach out and apply. If you want to change the next 90 days of your life and more faster than you've ever done it before, then reach out and do that. Those of you that want to still check things out, check the school group out and do something. There's systems, there's frameworks, there's structures, there's all those things that you need to do in there. Because look, the Divorced Dads of America account, reaching millions every month is awesome. And that's great. I believe we're going to transform 1 million dads and rebuild their life and legacy. That's what we are going to do. That's the calling that I have. That's what I believe that is in my heart to do and what I see. I don't believe it's for everybody. I don't believe dads, can do this. I believe there's a lot of deadbeat dads that have no interest in this. I believe that you're here because you're a great dad and you want to accelerate this growth and you want to show your children what it is that the man that they can become, and design your life instead of default. Have systems instead of chaos, right? Know how to use your emotions in the right way. Know how to talk to your children. Know how to transform your life. Know how to have the right tenets in your life. So I love you guys. I pray for you every day. I think you're amazing. And I'll see you guys on the next one. God bless y'all.